good morning. Welcome to Business Math class. I've just finished passing back the test on Chapter 4. We've completed our second test, and what we're going to do today is start a new set of handouts, and we're heading into a new chapter. The next chapter that we're going to be working on is Chapter 5. Since the syllabus was done and the handouts were done, a decision was made at the department level that we were not going to do partial year depreciation and stock turnovers. So we will be eliminating those from the course. So those topics will not be covered like they were on the syllabus. And your handout has that information in it, but we're just going to X that out. They've decided that's going to come off of the final and will not be part of the objectives of the course. So you have a little bit too much information at your fingertips because I did that several weeks ago before that decision was made. Today we're going to cover 5.2, which is the first section in Chapter 5 that we're going to discuss. The overall topic for Chapter 5 is asset values. When you own a business, you obviously buy goods, put it on the shelf, and hope to sell them. But besides the items that you're selling, your business owns property. It might own a computer. It might own a cash register. Yes? I don't have this handout. Oh, I'll be glad to give it to you. If you'll run up and get it, do you mind doing that? Part of a business is owning assets. Your company might own a car. Your company, and I go back to bringing in some things about business math that have to do with the Chef's Apprentice program, because I have a lot of people that I have in that Monday afternoon class that do that. If they own a bed and breakfast, or they own a bakery, or they own a restaurant, they're going to have mixers and all sorts of equipment that through so many years wear out. You know, if you own a laundromat, you're going to own washers and dryers, and at some point the value of those washers and dryers go down until eventually, you know, they don't have any value, right? So one of the things we're going to do in this is talk about the depreciation of those assets. And the other thing that we're going to talk about, and that's the section in 5.2, is the value of my inventory. We know that we've purchased merchandise and we've put it on the shelf. Generally, for financial statements, every year we're going to come up with an inventory value at the end of each year. There are 4 acceptable ways of coming up with a value for your inventory. If you, for example, had a car lot, you'd have big ticket items. And you might have a red car out there and a black car out there and a green car out there. Maybe they were all the same model. But you could identify them specifically because they have serial numbers on them and you've got paperwork on each one of them individually. And you would know how much each one of those cars cost you. So you would be able to evaluate it on a specific identification method. Okay? Because you just know what each one of them cost. But let's say that you own a uniform store for medical supplies. Marilyn is a nurse here, and let's say that her goal has always been to own a uniform store. They've got darling uniforms anymore for nurses, don't they? Yeah, cute colored ones and stuff. So you buy some of them and you hang them up. And you buy some more and they may be at a different price and you hang them up. At the end of the year, there's no way to specifically identify whether the little green smock came in January or February or March's purchases. Does that make sense? Sometimes specific identification is not possible. Everything looks the same. When it comes in, it doesn't have a unique identifying mark, and we need to come up with a value, and we're assuming we're buying these at different prices. You know that the price of items goes up and down. So the value of our inventory is what we're going to talk about today. One of the methods would be specific identification, but sometimes that's not possible. The specific identification method of inventory is useful if the items are very easily identified and the costs don't fluctuate very much, or you have a specific piece of paper for each of those items. I go back to the car lot. But if the number of items gets large and they all sort of look the same and they don't have a specific identification number on them, we need to come up with another way to evaluate what the inventory is in our shop. 3 other ways besides specific identification. And obviously, we're not going to deal with specific identification because that would just be a matter of pulling the invoices and marking those. We're going to go with some ways if we've got a lot of inventory and it all looks the same. Okay? And again, we're assuming the price of these items went up and down. You purchased some of these in January at a certain price. When you purchased in February, maybe they were on sale, you bought more. Maybe in March they were up. Yeah? So we need to come up with a price of the inventory other ways. First way we're going to talk about is weighted average. Second way we're going to talk about is called FIFO, FIFO, first in, first out. Last way we're going to talk about is last in, first out. I'm going to talk about Maryland's uniform shop for a minute, okay? This is just a general picture, then we'll do some specific stuff. Say in January you open your shop and you buy 50 uniforms for $50 a piece and you hang them up. And then come along in March, you buy another 30 uniforms and you hang them up. Bought them at a different price, yes? Come along in August, you order some more uniforms and you hang them up. We can either get the average price we paid for all of those, and that would be the average price of our inventory. This is assuming we sold none, yes? But if we sold some, we've got to kind of decide which ones sold first and which ones sold last. We're hanging up these uniforms, hanging them up, hanging them up. Are you with me? If at the end, Maryland had some uniforms left, we've got to decide when people came in and purchased, did they buy the ones in August that she just bought in July? They came off of the rack, and the ones that are left hanging at the end of the year are the ones she purchased in January? Or did she keep rotating her inventory forward so the ones she bought in January got sold first, the ones she bought in March got sold second, and the ones that are hanging on the rack are the ones we just bought in August? Do you see the issue here? You don't know which ones are left. And how we determine that is we've got to decide whether or not the ones that are left are the first ones we bought or they're the last ones we bought. Okay? Let's go to the example. Suppose that a company, this is going to be a chair company, purchased chairs for their operation, but it could just as easily be uniforms. Just a second, I don't have my markers out. Got busy with that test and didn't get them out. I apologize. Our example says in January we purchased 40 chairs and they cost $50 each. In March we purchased 50 chairs and the price of chairs had gone up. They cost $65 each, yes?
January's was $60. Yes.
Oh, 60, I'm sorry. Okay. Then in July we come along and we purchased 35 chairs and they had gone down a bit. They were $55 a piece. And in October, we purchased 75 chairs and they cost $50 a piece. We were so excited we bought extra. Question, how many chairs did we buy total through the year?
200.
We bought a total of 200 chairs. What we want to know is, what was the average price per chair? Now, in order to do the average price per chair, we need to extend the price of each one of these. We need to say 40 chairs at $60 a piece equals how much money? $2,400, that's right. 50 chairs at $65 a piece would be $3,250, someone's saying. Who's got the next one? 35 chairs, $55 a piece. What is it? $19.25. And 75 chairs at $50 a piece is $37.50. I actually, throughout the year on chairs, spent $11,325. And I purchased 200 chairs. Every time I ordered chairs, they cost a different amount of money. How would I find the average price per chair? Right. How you find an average is you take the total of your purchases, divide it by the total number of items you purchased. So I'm going to take 11,325 and divide it by 200 and tell me that I spent, on the average, $63 on every chair I bought. Is that all right? End of the year. I have 80 chairs left. If I'm using the weighted average method, those 80 chairs, I'm going to assume each one cost me the average amount. So I'm going to take that times 80. And the weighted average method tells me that my inventory at this moment should be valued at $4,530.40. Not one of those chairs really cost me $56.63, right? Some of the chairs cost $60, some of the chairs cost $65, some of the chairs cost $55, and some cost $50. No chair really cost $56.63, but on the average, that's what each one of them costs. And I have 80 left, so I can come up with an ending inventory value by just getting the average price, taking it times the number of items. Yeah? And Marilyn, if this was your uniform store, these uniforms could have cost this amount, and that would be 80 uniforms left, right? Okay, so I mean, this would work with whatever merchandise it was. The most common mistake that people make, actually, is taking the 4 values here, adding them up and dividing by 4. Doesn't work. And it isn't the right answer. The most common wrong thing that people do is say, ooh, some of them were 60, some of them were 65, some of them were 55, and some of them were 50. Add those up and divide by 4. And obviously you did that, right? Because you thought that was how you were going to find the average. And then he realized it was wrong. That's right. Don't do that. Why doesn't that work? Why does it work?
Because the amount of chairs isn't the same.
Right. I bought lots more chairs at $50 than I did at $65, right? And it's a weighted average. How we get the weighted average is you need to multiply these and extend those numbers.
So the weighted average was 56.63.
That's exactly what it is. It's the weighted average. Now, if someone said, over that time, what was the average price chairs were selling for, then you would say, well, I sampled it 4 times and the average price was whatever you got, Keith. But that's not what we paid on the average. What we paid on the average, we have to have the total number of items we purchased divided by the total purchase price of all of those items.
How did we get 80 chairs? Did you just,
Oh,
it says
it says at the end of the year there are 80 chairs left. Good question. And if at the end of the day, at the end of the year there were 60 chairs left, you take it times 60. However many chairs are left at the end of the year, on the average, you paid $56.63 for the chairs. However many chairs are left, we would just multiply times the total number of chairs. Question about that one? Okay.
So like, for B, have we done B yet?
No, we haven't done B yet. Weighted average. Okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, no,
All
I was
right.
just making sure I didn't miss anything.
No, we didn't. All right, weighted average. Next, we're going to go to FIFO. It says the first ones in were the first ones out. Okay? So let me draw you a number line. I'm kind of visual, and what I see is numbers. I'm going to come up here, make sure I'm on my paper, and I see that I originally bought I originally bought 40 chairs. Is that all right? Followed by that I bought 50 chairs. At that point, then, I had bought 90. Okay? Then, in my next purchase, I bought 35 chairs. So I had bought 125. And in my last purchase, I bought 75 chairs for a total of 200 chairs. So the chairs are sitting there. I have 80 chairs left. My decision is, what 80 chairs are left? If you're doing first in, first out, you assume that as you sold the chairs, the first ones you purchased, right, were the first ones that were sold. The first ones in were the first ones out. How many chairs did you sell if you have 80 chairs left? 120. So that's saying these are the 120 that sold. The first ones in were the first ones out. This is the 80 chairs that are left in my inventory. The first ones in, the ones I bought in the first 40, the ones I bought in the next 50, those are gone, yeah? How much did I pay for the first 40? $60. How much did I pay for the next? $65. The last group here I bought for $55 and then for $50. Okay? Some of the chairs that are left are my $50 chairs, and some of the chairs that are left are my $55 chairs. How many chairs do I have left?
120.
No, left.
80 left.
80. Good. If these are sold, in my total of 80, it's made up of two parts. It's made up of 75 chairs that are in this group that I paid $50 for, and I have 5 chairs actually left right here that I paid $55 for. So, the 80 chairs that are left, here's my total, 80 chairs, yes. 75 of them were purchased at $50. 5 of them were purchased at $55. I'm going to extend those prices. Does everyone see where I'm coming up with those numbers? The value of my inventory for those 80 chairs is a different number. It's 4025. It's because I'm using a different method to evaluate my inventory. Weighted average. Excuse me?
75 times 50.
Yeah, 75 times 50.
Add those two up.
Then add those together. Same thing would happen if you purchased stock. I don't know if any of you are familiar with how stock is purchased, but if you were purchasing stock and in January you purchased 40 shares at $60, you could then purchase 50 shares at $65. Then you could purchase 35 shares at $55. That would also be happening. 75 shares at $50. Say you sell 120 shares of your stock and you're trying to determine whether you've got a profit or you've got a loss. Saying the first ones I bought, the first ones that I purchased, the first in, were the first ones out, would assume that these were the ones that were gone, these were the shares of stock that were left. It would also assume in Maryland's uniform shop, right, that the January ones went first, the March ones, and the reason you kept ordering is you kept selling that first merchandise and replenishing the stock with the stock at the end. Okay? And that's an okay way to do business. First in, first out assumes the first goods that arrived were the first goods that sold, which is the way you would think it would be. I always think about when I'm at the grocery store and they put the milk from the back and they move it to the front. Yeah, and when you come, you open the door on the other side and the first ones that they put in, right?
Some people grab the
I
later
know.
date.
My husband, that's the one, right? He thinks the last in should be the first out for him. He goes to the back, right? Some people will do that. Good. That's number 3. Last in, first out. Okay. I kind of see this as I didn't sell anything all year long. I went and bought 40 chairs, stuck them against the wall. Do you need a number?
Yeah, I have my 40-25. Did you divide that by 80 to see how
No.
much each chair?
If I divide it, okay, my question that I'm answering is, what is the total value of my inventory of chairs? If I needed to know the average value of those, we're not going to do average based on that. We get the weighted average of what we purchased over the year to give us a number to multiply by what's left. I don't think that's a particularly meaningful number if we said the chairs that are left are valued at 40.25, so on the average, but we could do that if we needed to, but that's not a question we're asking. Okay. The next situation that we're going to deal with is last in, first out. I think about these chairs as buying 40 of them, standing them against the wall, buying 50 of them, standing them against the wall, buying 35 more, standing them against the wall, buying 75 more, standing them against the wall. I have 200 chairs here. And finally, in November, someone says, whoa, I need to buy 120 chairs. And those chairs have been stacked against the wall. And the oldest ones are clear against the wall, and the ones that just came in last week are at the front. And you come in and go, I'll take this first 120, and you leave with it. The 80 that are left, right? The last ones in are the first ones out the door. The 80 that are left are the ones that you purchased early in the year. So let me draw you a different number line. Really sloppy. I buy 40 chairs, they don't sell. I buy them at $60 each. I'm optimistic. I buy another 50 chairs at $65 each and stack those against the wall. Then I come along and I buy another 30. I know these chairs are going to sell. And I always think of these as folding chairs, so they're real easy to stack against the wall. And 75 more chairs at $50 a piece. So they're all stacked up, right? And I've got them leaning against this wall, yeah? Someone comes in and picks them up and buys them. They buy 120 of them. The 120 that they buy are right here. I have 80 chairs left. The 80 chairs that are left are this 40 that I paid $60 for, and part of this 50. How many out of this 50? 40 more, right. So the calculation for last in, first out says the ones that are sold are the $50 and the $55 ones. The ones that are left are the $65 and $60 ones. So I've got 40 here times the $60. And I also have another 40. I need a total of 80 chairs that are left. And that last group that I bought was $65 there. I'm going to take those two numbers, multiply them, and say the value of my inventory using last in, first out was $5,000. We're not going to answer the question, which is a better way to evaluate inventory. We're going to let an accountant decide what we're going to do. Then we're going to tend to use that same method throughout our business. You know, it's like saying which is better, to pay weekly or semi-monthly, or, you know, that's not up to us to decide. We need to be able to do the calculation after someone has told us which of these methods we're using. Okay? So what we're going to do is take an inventory, evaluate it using weighted average, first in, first out, last in, first out. Okay? Would somebody get out their book and pick a problem from the homework then? We're in problems on page 162, 1 through 17. And let's just do one together and see if we can't. I know I subbed this morning and I don't have my book with me. I meant to bring it. Someone pick one, and we'll do it together. 7, he said. Okay, tell me about what number 7 says. Let's get our picture going. What are we buying in problem 7? Guitars, okay. How many purchases of guitars did we make? Come on, Josh. Tell me what the story of, read the story of guitars on number 7.
Jeff keeps several inexpensive guitars in stock at the beginning of inventory and purchases the cost for the guitar.
Okay.
We're, do you want me to read all that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, beginning of inventory, January 1st, 5 guitars at $109 each.
5 guitars, $109, yes.
Yeah. Purchases April 20th, 6 guitars at $119 each.
119?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then August August 10th, he purchases 13 guitars at $97 each.
Because they were on sale.
Yeah, September, 7 guitars at $122 each.
7?
Yeah,
No, 21st.
It doesn't matter.
7 at $122 a piece.
$122, okay. And we want to come out with the weighted average,
Well, yeah.
the first in, first out, and the last in, first out method, okay? All right, we're going to do weighted average. Then we're going to do first in, first out. Then we're going to do last in, first out. How many guitars total did this, is his name Jeff? Did Jeff purchase that year?
Yeah.
First, we need to add all these numbers up.
31.
I agree. And we need to extend these prices to find out the total amount that Jeff paid for all the guitars that he purchased. I'll give you just a minute, and then I'll have you tell me the answers so I don't have to get out my calculator.
447 is the total thing.
Are we here?
No.
I just need to know what 5 times 109 is.
545.
545, okay.
No, never mind.
I know, that's how come I didn't ask you. He added all these up, right?
438.
Ooh, is that right?
714. It's 2 times.
6.
I need 6 times 119.
Oh, I'm at the
She's trying
top.
to get the total in the total.
Okay,
714,
Sorry.
all right.
1261, 854.
So I need to add those up and say, this is how much Jeff spent.
3374.
So his total purchase dollars were 33, did we say 74?
Yes.
Okay. We do not want to add these up and divide by 4. That would be a number nobody needs, okay? Okay. Most common mistake. So on the average, how much did Jeff pay for guitars this year?
$108.84.
How do you spell guitar?
GUI.
I don't spell very well. Cool. And how many guitars does he have left at the end of the year?
6.
6. Okay. So we're going to take, for the weighted average, and we will say our ending inventory is
$653.04.
653.04. That looks about right to me. Whoa! That looks about right to me. Is that okay? 653.04. Weighted average. Okay.
What's number 11?
Excuse me?
You just did number 11.
Number 11?
Well, we're on 7, but like it only says to using the LIFO method, but we're kind of doing it all.
We're going to do it all. That's
Yeah.
right. I just needed another set of numbers.
Only
Okay.
4 thirds of one step.
All right. Next thing we want to do then is go back to Guitar World. And if we have 6 guitars left at the end of the year, we want to talk about, and again, he said we're doing more than they asked in that problem. I just wanted another set of numbers to work with. If 6 guitars were left, look at our chart. What could the possibility be? Well, if we were using first in, first out, we would have sold the first ones that we had. These would be sold, these would be sold. What 6 would be left? This last 6 in, which would be 6 times $122. If what we had left was 6 guitars and we were using first in, first out, we would assume the first ones were sold. It would be an easy calculation.
730.
We would have taken, what numbers did you use to get that, Cassandra?
I took 6 times 122.
Good. If I'm doing first in, first out, I'm going to take 6 times 122 to get my answer. Somebody that's got their calculator clicking, Tell me what that. How many?
732.
732. Good. Last in, first out. Different calculation. I'm going to go back to Guitar World and look at my purchases. If I have 6 guitars left, but the last one's in where the first one's out, it got to be December and the Christmas rush came. I had those guitars stacked over there next to the wall. I sold all but 6 of the guitars, but I hadn't sold any until the December rush came. I would have sold all of these 7, all of these 13. 5 of these, what would be left in the 6 would be this original 5 plus 1 of these. Yes? So my calculation for last in, first out would be 5 of these times 109 plus 1 of these at 119. Is that making sense?
Is that number 7?
We're just answering more than number 7 asked, I think. If we were doing last in, first out, we would do 5 times 109 plus 1 times 119. This one's going to be 545. This one's going to be 119. Add them together, and what'd you tell me we get? 664. Now, to add to the confusion, is that the answer they were looking for in number 7, and that's the only answer?
Number 7 was just.
Yeah, number 7 was just the last in, first out.
Number 7 was last in, first out. This would be number 7.
No. Number 7 is
Number 7 is the
number
ending.
7 is last in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This would be the answer to number 7.
Number 9 is first in, first out.
Oh, okay.
And then number 11 is weighted average.
Okay, we just did them in the wrong order.
Did like half our homework. It's all right.
Well, I didn't mean to do quite so much.
That's okay. Keep going.
What I think that you need to do, though, is make sure you can get the same answers. And Cassandra, did you get them?
Yeah.
Did you get it figured out? Generally, the first in, first out makes the most sense. People tend to do that one well. The mistake on weighted average tends to be they add the items purchased and divide by how many times you purchased instead of extending the price and doing the total purchases. And then that last in, first out, you've just got to assume you didn't sell anything until the end of the year. And you had them stacked against the wall, and the old ones that were there last January are still there. Okay? I didn't mean to help you do all of your homework. But that's exactly what on the review and on the test there'll be. There'll just be something. It might be uniforms, and it might be chairs, and it might be any kind of an inventory item that you might have that's unidentifiable, that you've bought over and over, that doesn't have an expiration date. Obviously, these are not going to be loaves of bread and milk, because those through the year, they're not going to be perishable items. They're going to be items that are replenished, on a regular basis. And we're going to decide how they were pulled off the shelf, and you're going to come up with those inventory values. They should be close, but varying prices cause those inventory values to vary, so they're none going to be the same, probably. Okay, are there any questions about weighted average, first in, first out, last in, first out? Okay, then we're going to let them turn off the tape. I'll let you get started on your homework. I'll answer any problems that you might have on the test. And we're going to do depreciation of assets when we get together in our next class session. It'll be 5-3.